OpenAI looks to become a $100 billion company with its latest funding efforts, with possible investments from Microsoft and Apple as the AI money grabs continue. We're going to talk about this story and more in our weekly tech news roundup on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. The guy behind the monitors is Chris. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And joining us as guest co-host once again from San Francisco is Brandon Maney. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Glasshouse and the owner of Mangrove Collective. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, guys. Good to be back.
Looking good, my friend. All right, so let's jump right into the news this week. Apple is the latest in being in talks to invest in OpenAI. A move that would cement ties to a partner integral to its efforts to gain ground in the artificial intelligence race. The investment would be part of a new OpenAI fundraising round that would value the ChatGPT maker above $100 billion. This is according to the Wall Street Journal, which reported that venture capital firm Thrive Capital is leading the round, which will total several $billion dollars, and Apple rival Microsoft is also expected to participate. So if anything in the world could get Apple and Microsoft to work together, it's OpenAI. It could not be learned how much Apple or Microsoft will invest into the round, but they're saying it is worth several $1 billion. Microsoft has been the primary strategic advisor into OpenAI, which owns a 49% share of the startup's profits after investing $13 billion since 2019. Apple, in June, announced that OpenAI was its first official partner for its Apple Intelligence system, which infuses AI features throughout its operating system. The new AI will feature an improved Siri voice assistant, text proofreading, and creating custom emojis. And of course, they are going to debut that on September 9th. During their big Apple iPhone 16, there's no rumors anymore. I mean, there's no surprises anymore with Apple. You remember when we were like, ooh, wonder what they're going to announce? But now all the rumors are like, yeah. So everyone knows that they're going to announce this on September 9th. Now, earlier this year, OpenAI was valued at a reported $80 billion from $29 billion the prior year. Growth took off in late 2022 after the company launched ChatGPT and has continued as it rolled out products for businesses and expanded into AI-generated photos and videos. The news follows OpenAI's announcement last week that it would debut a prototype of its search engine called SearchGPT, which aims to give users fast and timely answers with clear and relevant sources. That was the one knock against ChatGPT, is that you could only ask it questions like search engine questions before 2021. So it wouldn't be able to tell you like, hey, what was the score of the Red Sox game last night? Type of a thing. But possibly this will happen in the future. Again, that's a big move because, again, they're going to go after Google with that one, with the Search GPT.
Yes,
Brandon,
are.
So my opinion on this, Brandon, is that I think they're continuing to just basically throw money at the problem. And it feels like Apple and Microsoft, are like, well, we've already done this much money. What's another, $5 or $6 billion among friends? Let's just keep doing it. But OpenAI still does have some fundamental issues and problems with getting to that next level of the large language model, right? Like haven't they been promising 5 for a while, and we saw 4, and then we saw 4.0, like, the special model. And it feels like that they haven't done much in terms of the latest model. Well, maybe if you just give us, $20 billion, all those problems will go away. So what are your thoughts from the tech side? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a hedge that they absolutely have to be investing in this internally. Like, I know that Apple must be, from the hardware data that's taking and being generated. What these partnerships are going to produce is hopefully just a leg up. I can't imagine. It seems strange why they would want to invest now if they're going to move away from OpenAI and build their own, which they must be doing. So either it's so far advanced, or they've seen something that they know they can't build in the same amount of time and they want to get on board. But I mean, Microsoft's been there since day one, so they're reaping the benefits.
Yeah, I was less surprised about Microsoft's involvement in the new funding than the Apple. The Apple one was like, oh, wow. And then you start thinking, well, maybe it's because Apple just hasn't, like, I don't want to say that they're behind, but they just don't have the same types of Like, who else are they going to go to? They're not going to want to go to Google, right? And probably not Meta either. I mean, that's the other big player in theory. Or in Anthropic, I think is their major investor is Amazon, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So
at the end of the day, Apple's a hardware company. They always have been.
Right.
They've always had the hardware, and this is a software problem. And they don't have necessarily that level of expertise, which is where partnering maybe fits in, where you see Google, that ChatGPT is OpenAI is going after Google.
Right.
And that is the most interesting part of all of this.
Right. And Google, for its part, has had its own stumbling issues. I actually, last week they also re-released their image generator that had caused so many problems, and so I didn't get a chance yet to see if the new one is any good, but I'm sure it's got some pretty good guardrails around that. Apple really just doesn't have a choice, especially since they would also get criticized by their end users and other critics if whatever they produce is not on the same level as some of these other AI models. And so I guess they were like, yeah, I guess we have to invest in the top one right now. And then see what we can.
Trying to make like Siri happen, right? I think that
they're trying. Yeah, they're trying to make it so that you can have some AI on the phone, but then for more complex questions, then it goes and it asks and it says, "Hey, do you want to go to OpenAI for this?" For the more complicated stuff. I'm assuming it can create these custom emojis on the fly, which is weird too, because again, with Google, it all ties in together. Google, their Pixel 9 is coming out next week for all those people that pre-ordered,
right?
Including our pal Chris here. So Chris is going to have the most advanced phone in the studio.
I'm waiting for over a month.
No, it's going to be even more, because I don't run out and buy the newest Apple phone, immediately.
Yeah, but I'm way behind in models. I'm like I'm the Pixel 4.
You're on the 4A, right? Yeah,
4A.
So you're just leapfrogging almost everybody in the company at this point. So, I fully expect Chris to become the Google Pixel expert. He's going to be eliminating people from photos. He's going to be asking his phone.
It's just a phone. It's just a phone. Jeez. With some apps on it and stuff. Like, come on. It's just.
I'm going to drag Chris into the 21st century at some point with a lot of this tech stuff. You're going to find something on there, and then you're going to come in and go, "Hey, Keith, did you know that you could do this?" And I'm going to be like, "Yes, Chris."
I mean, Chris, when you get these call emojis that are available on the Pixel 8a and 9, when you can do hand clapping and fart noises when you're in a call, your life will be changed forever.
My life is going to be changed. I'm going to come back, a new person.
He's going to start wearing hoodies.
I'm going to look like I came out of Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Patagonia ready for you.
Patagonia.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's gonna have to wear the Tech Bro vest. Yeah. You're.
I'm gonna be fully shaved.
Yep. We're gonna suck you into this whole thing. All right. Hey. So all right. I think we've talked enough about OpenAI at this point. So let's go to the other topic, which was our second topic. There were a bunch of earnings reports this week. So. And I just lumped them all together. There's only a couple of things that I found interesting. First was that NVIDIA shares fell after their earnings report. They fell about 6% on Thursday as the company's fiscal second quarter gross margin dipped slightly and its revenue beat was eclipsed by a backdrop of increasingly lofty expectations. So again, July quarter revenue on Wednesday, they reported more than $30 billion, which is up 122% year on year. Fourth straight quarter of triple-digit revenue growth. But the problem with the stock market is even though you have incredible numbers, if it's not what they expected, if it's lower than what people expect, the stock goes down. So again, this is why I don't have a lot of money in the stock market other than like 401ks.
It'll go back up.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure, and even by the time this is published, it might go up. But there are some concerns in the industry about are we hitting that AI trough of disillusionment? All of this money that we spent on NVIDIA and all of these other companies. I think Dell announced great numbers for its servers because of AI and all of these other AI projects that require hardware as well. But there's something like, well, is there any kind of softness coming? So that's about as much stock market information that you're going to get from me. I just found that interesting because then, in addition to that, our friends at CrowdStrike. Did you see this news? CrowdStrike, they beat their quarterly. Their shares slipped 4% in extended, so they also went down a little bit. They reported strong fiscal second quarter results, but reduced their full year guidance in the wake of this global outage. So the global outage, I think, happened on July 19th, and then their quarter ended probably on the 31st of July. So they didn't have a lot of, at least within that second quarter, they didn't have a lot of bad news. But then during the call where they talked to analysts, they then said that they're reducing their revenue for the year. And so, the stock goes down again because of expectations, even though you still have a lot of money that's coming in. The more I read about this, I think the more interesting I think CrowdStrike will still be around. It's not like they're going to just basically bury. There's too many people out there in the IT space, I think, that really, they really like CrowdStrike. And again, this was not a fundamental flaw of their actual software and technology. It was a flaw in how they were.
That's how they rolled it out.
They rolled it out. It was the update that then got into the Microsoft kernel, and Microsoft has some responsibility for allowing them to do that, and they're going to change that too. So, I'm starting to think that maybe there are still the lawsuits, but as we saw, Microsoft was like offering Delta free support, and Delta was like, no, we got this, and then they're like, oh no, we don't have this.
No. So.
That's the second one. Now I'm going to do one more, and then Brandon, if you want to comment on any of these three companies. So Lego, apparently they are finding new success by going digital. Lego saw its first half operating profit soar 26%, hitting a new record of more than $1.2 billion, thanks in large part to a popular partnership with Fortnite maker Epic Games. Since its release in December, LEGO Fortnite has reached 83 million people, according to CEO Niels Christensen. Despite a downturn in the wider toy market, LEGO is seeing strong demand in North America. The toy maker said it's also set to replace the oil in all of its bricks with recycled plastic by 2032, a shift that may cost 70% more, which means that your LEGO sets are now going to be like $1,000 at some point for some of these LEGO sets. But what was interesting to me was that partnership with Fortnite, which I think we talked about whenever that happened. And I think it was cool for Fortnite because that's more of a multi-gaming type platform, because Epic Games also owns the Rock Band franchise and Guitar Hero. They own Harmonix. And so they've been releasing a lot of, you can basically play Rock Band and Guitar Hero again, but you have to do it through Fortnite. And that's what I've been doing. I loved Guitar Hero.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're doing something similar to what Call of Duty is doing. Like, I don't know. Okay. I haven't played in such a long time, but every once in a while you see that they license out new skins for their characters, like different, 90s action heroes. So, the guy, I can't remember, the guy from Die Hard, Rambo, Terminator, right? So they license out these characters. It just seems like what Fortnite's doing.
Those are three different people. Right. Those are three different characters you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're different IPs.
I know. No. I thought you were thinking about one person.
No. I'm talking about like they're licensing out different IPs.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg, Cardi B, right? It just seems
there's a Cardi B skin in Call of Duty.
Yeah, don't even ask. Yeah, I know, right? It's weird.
Snoop Dogg's everywhere. He's riding that Olympic fame, and now he's in Fortnite.
Yeah, well, Call of Duty, yeah, but
I think Snoop Dogg is becoming way too mainstream.
Yeah,
like he's not. I don't know. I mean, I think he's I don't know.
Well, so I mean, it's a smart move on Lego, because if you look at their target audience, the majority of them are playing video games these days, right? They're on Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever. So it's like, how do you get them to put the controller down and maybe play with some Legos or some way somehow integrate Lego into
I mean that's the entire toy market. There's been stories about it just drops. Like parents are just not buying their kids as many toys anymore. Like Toys R Us went out of business, and now they reintegrated it into Macy's and some other stores. Walmart, I think used to have a big toy section. Target sort of has a big toy section, but Legos I think is something that, like, my son has enjoyed building the Legos when he was a kid, and then that went away, and now he's now old enough where he can then start buying his own sets, and so he's kind of getting back into it. But again, a lot of it is if you build it, then if you have space to display it, and you become the adult Lego builder, and then it becomes this whole thing where do you glue it, and then that's the whole Lego movie plot from the first one. I just bought the Dungeons and Dragons set. So I'm excited about building that at some point, but I've got no place to put it. So that's another problem that I'm going to have. So it does feel like Lego is skewing older. I don't know if you've seen the, they do the Ideas brand where they custom make, content from customers. But then you start seeing like almost like statue display type things. Like there's a Thanos glove, the Infinity Glove that you can build. Rather than a set that looks like it's a toy, you're now building centerpieces, I think. Or you're building like, the Empire State Building or monuments and castles.
They're just targeting like the older audience.
And they always have, but it does feel like if you go to the Lego aisle, it seems like you're getting more and more of those and less of the IP branded stuff.
Well, yeah, because the younger generations aren't doing that. They're more into video games and cell phones, and I mean, it's sad.
Well, so you know what's coming probably in the next month or two is they're going to have Lego branded sets for the movie Wicked, which is based on a Broadway musical. And so it might be the first Lego branded property of a Broadway musical / movie because I'm pretty sure they haven't done any other ones.
There's been no Hamilton box set.
There's not, there was never a Hamilton Lego. Now you might be able to find like a knockoff somewhere. So, there's a lot of companies in China that do Lego knockoffs. Maybe there's some of those. If you're ever looking for minifigures, that's the route to go to. Because, again, if you're looking for a specific minifigure, those are in the really expensive sets usually. We talked a lot about Lego. Man, I could talk for a while on Lego. All right, we're gonna switch gears again. And this time we're going to talk about, there are two big stories about governments that are going after big tech. Brandon, I'm not sure how much you follow this, but French prosecutors on Wednesday charged Telegram CEO Pavel Durov with enabling criminal activity on the messaging platform and placed him under formal investigation following his arrest earlier in the week on Saturday. In a statement, the Paris prosecutor's office said that Durov was indicted of all charges unveiled earlier this week. In a statement from prosecutors, they include complicity in the administration of an online platform to enable an illicit transaction in an organized gang, a charge which on its own carries a maximum penalty of 10 years imprisonment and a 500,000 euro fine if someone is found guilty after trial. Other charges include refusal to communicate upon request from the authorized authorities the information or documents necessary for the performance and exploitation of interceptions authorized by law, enabling the dissemination of child pornography, drug trafficking, and fraud. He's been in French custody and faced questions from legal authorities over an investigation into organized crime, drug trafficking, fraud, and he also posted 5 million euros for bail. He is under judicial supervision, cannot leave French territory, and has to report twice weekly to a police station. So, a lot of people were freaking out about this.
Shocking.
And it's understandable because for the, just refresh my memory, Brandon. Telegram, is it something where you can have private messages and that are encrypted?
Encrypted both ways, like Confide or something else like that, right?
Yeah. And so, in the U.S., I don't think that there's been any kind of going after those types of people. But in theory, if you were a criminal type of person, you're going to use these types of messaging and communication platforms.
Well, there's actually another example.
What's the other example?
This was probably 7 or 8 years ago. Remember the whole Dr. Disrespect Twitch Whispers messaging app on Twitch?
Oh, okay.
Well, it's the same thing.
Well, that was
a private. I know.
That was in the app. That was in the Twitch app itself. This is a separate. Yeah, this is a separate.
It was,
app.
But it was kind of separate.
Yeah,
it was kind of advertised as like a private. The messages that you exchange are private, and they're like anonymous or whatever. But apparently they weren't. But anyways, just little off topic.
And again, it gets in. There's a lot of political stuff that's going on with this too, because the CEO is Russian, and the Russians are mad at the French, because whatever's going on in Ukraine as well. And there's a whole bunch of other things about it. The issue that I wanted to bring up was a lot of these companies were saying, like, we're just the middleman in a lot of these, and you're going to see that too with the Facebook story that's coming up, and. Is the CEO of a company that creates the messaging platform responsible for the content that goes over this platform? And so let me just bring up the Microsoft stuff too. So Mark Zuckerberg recently wrote a letter to the head of the committee in the House of Representatives, basically saying that the Biden administration pressured Facebook parent Meta to censor content related to COVID-19. And Zuckerberg says he regrets some of the decisions that were taken in relation to the U.S. government's request. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Zuckerberg wrote in a letter to the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee. Zuckerberg said it was ultimately Meta's decision to take down any content, but he noted he believes that the alleged government pressure was wrong. I regret that we were not more outspoken about it, he said. And in August 2021, Facebook said it removed more than 20 million posts related to COVID-19 for violating its content rules across the main social networking site and Instagram.
I mean, are we surprised at this point?
No. I mean, especially considering what came out from Twitter after Elon Musk bought Twitter and then published all of the Twitter files, which also showed pressure from the administration.
Right.
And so, but I think Zuckerberg and a lot of these social media companies did feel like they were allowed to have it both ways. Like they were like, we're just the platform. We're not responsible for what these people are saying. But I felt like they were getting more and more pressure to actually start monitoring all that stuff. And they are supposed to monitor hate speech and all of this other types of speech. But then you start getting into political stuff. And to be honest, a lot of the COVID-19 stuff was political. Depending on what side you believe and what side you didn't believe. There was a lot of anger. And then to see that they were pressured to start taking down these posts is kind of disturbing. And I think that's what he's trying to get away from. He also said that he's not going to invest in he's not going to support any election candidates this year, and they're going to kind of back off on what they were doing before. Is there any sense of why he was doing it, and why does he do this now? Was he starting to feel pressure?
I think so. I think he's just trying to protect himself, because if he can come out and admit it now instead of after the fact, it kind of protects him a little bit. Yeah, I think.
Brandon, any thoughts on the timing of this, or?
I just think it goes back to your question of, is the CEO of these companies personally responsible? Like, that's the part that I think is so shocking in this, that, corporations do things all the time. The head of Philip Morris for selling cigarettes, and lung cancer. Like, this is a precedent that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it stands, and if it does, nobody's going to France.
Right.
Well, on top of that, part of me is kind of surprised. It's like, whoa, you just admitted it, that stuff like this was happening on the platform, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. It's like, wait. It's like, well, wait a minute. Weren't we saying this years and years and years ago, and now you're coming out in the open and openly admitting to it.
Right.
I feel like people are going to get pissed. Holy man.
Yeah. I want to go. Yeah. The thing that you were saying, Brandon, was, for years, social media companies were saying, we're just like the telephone company. Right. The telephone company, if you and I are on a phone call, Brandon, and we want to start talking about, drug trafficking or some kind of illegal scheme, you and I are working on robbing the casino at the Bellagio, a la Ocean's 11.
AT&T doesn't have a part in that.
AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, whatever service we use cannot be held responsible for the content. And so they're trying to say the same thing. But on the other hand, when you are a media platform, if you are a site like if you're IDG, Foundry, the old school newspapers, if you're the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, when you're publishing your content, you have checks and balances and levels that allow you to, that basically the information that you're putting out has been vetted and all that stuff. And you can be held responsible if you have one of your reporters, for example, says something libelous or defamation. You can get sued for libel and defamation on content that people say.
Because when we talk about AT&T and T-Mobile and the phone company, they still play ball. They have records of who was talking to whom.
Right.
There are wiretaps and other things. And the part of Telegram and these new technologies is if it truly is encrypted and anonymous and you can't get at the person on either side, that's where the fear comes from. And how are we going to police it?
Right. So there's the dilemma is like, do you allow a technology that allows you, you and me, Brandon, like where I was like, you know what, I want to have a private conversation that's not going to be able to, and we're not talking about anything illegal. We just want to protect our privacy.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think that this is going to be probably a topic for a future episode with another guest that we're going to have. I'm a little disturbed that those two stories happened within the same week, meaning that, I've never been a fan of government power. The reason I got into journalism way back when was I was seeing what a lot of government things were doing to personal members of my family, and I was like, I want to write for the New York Times someday and stop corruption. But that was the time we lived in too, when we thought newspapers could make a difference before they all went away. So anyway, it's very disturbing content. So all right, let's go to the last story of the week. And this is the fun one. This is the one that you're going to love. So there's a company in California. It's a startup. They want to boost the world's power production by effectively selling sunset after dark with solar panels to create daylight on demand. The name of the company is Reflect Orbital, and they aim to reflect the sun's rays over solar panels on the Earth's surface well after it's gone dark. Stunning video footage shows how the tech could illuminate the night sky with the reflected light. CEO Ben Nowak presented his company's ambitious plan during the International Conference on Energy from Space, which took place in London this April. Many speakers talked about having solar panels up in space, but Nowak has a different idea. He wants to shoot 57 small satellites into orbit, armed with 33 square foot ultra-reflective mylar mirrors that would theoretically bounce sunlight back down to solar farms. The satellites orbiting 370 miles above the surface could provide an additional 30 minutes of sunshine to those solar power plants during peak demand times. This is according to the Deep Dive. So, what was the first thing? What are you doing? Oh, those are the company founders. All right, Chris, what was the first thing you said when you saw this?
I thought it was a joke.
Yeah, you thought it was fake. You thought this was like an onion story, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, and then the first thing I thought was that episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns wanted to block out the sun so that more people would use electricity from the nuclear power plant. And so then the other thing I thought, so the way that they're doing it is that the sunlight is going to reflect, they're going to capture sunlight by these satellites. And so that's going to store a lot of solar energy.
Right.
And then
they're just
I don't think they're just going to redirect it. And so it's like you're going to be pointing a sunlight laser beam type thing to these solar farms. But the other thing I thought of was, when you were a kid, did you ever take a magnifying glass and like try to like burn ants?
That's a magnifying glass.
Well, it's still solar energy, right? It's still solar light. It's still light basically that you're, and so
these are the space lasers. They're coming. This is how it happens.
Right. And that also reminded, there was the movie called Real Genius that came out in the 80s, and they were developing something similar, but it was for the military where they were basically doing space lasers. Like they had built a laser beam thing that they could put up in space, and then they could, pinpoint laser assassinate someone with this weapon.
This is just going to make solar cost more now. Because now, in order to get the maximum amount of energy out of solar, the solar companies are going to have to enlist these this company that does these mirror sunlight bouncing thing. It's just going to increase the price.
Well, no, isn't that supposed to reduce the price? Because now, so if you only have, so let's say we're in the Northeast, we're coming up on fall and winter where you're only going to get, nine or 10 hours of sunlight.
Yeah, you're right.
So why
right.
not then use this? I just think it's either a brilliant idea or the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
I think like you're just gonna need a lot of freaking mirrors. No, to fill up a solar farm. That's gotta be a lot of mirrors. That's a lot.
Well, no, but they've got like giant solar farms. There's
like,
giant solar farms everywhere.
How you gonna hoist up all those mirrors? Like,
well, I think the farther, I don't know. Brandon, correct me if my science is incorrect here. Like the farther away you go with a mirror, does it give you a broader area, or?
I think so.
I think the area of sunlight, you could hit these solar farms from space. Rather than if you're
well, here, look
directly
at the video.
next
I mean, we're watching the video right now. I mean, you saw.
Well, this is from a hot air balloon in this video.
Yeah.
Like see, like it was like on the guy in front of a U-Haul truck. Like,
right, but it didn't seem that big, you know.
I don't know. I think it's either, like I said, it's either the most brilliant idea I've ever heard of, or it's the goofiest, most, unbelievable
We're coming
story.
up on the most frustrating thing, which is daylight saving time. If somehow we could utilize this to get rid of daylight saving time where we got that extra hour regardless, like, I don't know, sure.
Yeah, I think initially it's going to be used for these companies that have solar farms that need to, that want to generate some more. I don't think you're going to be able to pay this company to go, hey, between 9 and 9:15, can you just, PM, can you just shine this thing on my house? Because I just feel like, if they don't hit those solar farms, you're going to start hitting the
Archimedes death ray, right? It's
right. And then the dog runs out to go to the bathroom and the dog gets incinerated, or you start a forest fire because you hit a tree. I don't know. These are, a lot of these solar farms are in the desert, so if you miss, I guess you'll be okay. We're coming into the whole space laser thing, aren't we?
Yes.
And yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
I'll never look at a mirror the same way.
All right. Brandon, thanks again for being on the show this week and catching up on the tech news with us.
Thank you, guys.
All right. That's all the time we have for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any comments you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.